Well, story time today. I wanted to tell you how remodeling a house and helping somebody out that needs help are somewhat interrelated in the scope of the work that's going to go on. As you know, there's a lot of people out there that may not come up to our standard. We may be the type of people that judge them on what they have, where they came from, where they're going. And part of it might be how much they may have in their pocket. We may judge people on their finances. We certainly do judge people on their background because it can foretell the future. And some people we just don't like their nature. So we push them off to the side and let somebody else worry about it. We kick the can down the road. But we do the same thing with houses. Sometimes we come across a house and we look at it and it just looks like a haunted house. It needs painted. The windows are starting to get bad. There's a few broken ones in there. The floors are uneven. There's holes in the wall. The doors are decrepit. The lawn's in disarray. The only thing it really has is some rocks under it for foundation. It may have a system out there for sewer and water, a good well maybe. So it's better than nothing, but how much better? Well, I guess that's up to you and I and what our tastes are. A friend of mine called me up and he said that there was a young couple that didn't have a lot of money, but they needed to fix a house up before they moved into it. Their grandfather was giving it to them, and it was the home place of their grandfather. Now that I think about it, I don't know if it was the girl's grandfather or the guy, but I'm thinking it was the guy. Anyway, the place had been given to them, the both of them. And they, like I say, they didn't have the money to tear it down and replace it. And this house being out of square, out of plumb, the studs moving in every direction. Walls had been added or deleted in there, and of course the replacements, sometimes they were put in there plumb, but the rest of the house wasn't. And it squirrels everything that goes on in there. Now, when I got there to look at it, it had been gutted, new wiring put in, plumbing, and was insulated. And the foundation had been reworked under it to keep it from moving in the future, because the house, being as old as it was, the foundation wasn't quite as stable as what it should have been, but by the time I got there, it was. And I said, well, yeah, we can fix this and make it look pretty decent, as long as they understand that I won't be plumbing it or squaring it or anything like that. That would be a different cost. And the guy said, no, we just want you to put the sheetrock in and tape it and paint it. Put prime coat paint on it. And I said, well, I can do that. So I have a young fellow working for me. He happened to be kind of narrow-minded. He was a good Christian, and him and I had different talks sometimes, at break time or lunch time. We come from different denominations, but we did agree on a higher deity. But like I say, he was very straightforward, and he was a good person. He really was. Just narrow-minded. And everything had to be perfect. I took him down there, and he walked part way through, and he said, he was shaking his head. He said, I can't work on this. He said, my conscience won't let me. He said, it's just in terrible shape. And I said, I know, it's in bad shape. That's why they hired us. I said, the reason I want to put you on it is because you're one of the best guys working for me. And I know that you can make it look better than probably anybody else around here. You can do it. He gave me that look like, man, I don't want to work on it. But I explained to him the predicament that this young couple was in. And the fact that if we didn't do it, it probably wouldn't get done, or at least it wouldn't get done as well as what the job we might do. And after a little bit, he said, well, I'll give it a try. He had never worked on anything like that. So, and there's tricks to everything. To make something that is in that bad a shape, to make it look good, it takes some forethought. So I showed him when you come to a corner this bad, you go ahead and plumb down, cut your corner so that it fits, and plumb it up. And that's the line we'll go with. And then if it doesn't hit on a stud right, we can, if the stud is out of plumb as well, then we'll let it float out there. We'll put something behind the butt joint and join the two sheets together at each joint through a cripple out there. Okay, he said. He said, that's a lot of work. And I said, not as bad as you think it is. And he said, well, the studs aren't, faced off the same. And I said, I know. I said, here's what we're going to do. And I showed him you cut strips, 1.5-inch strips from roofing material, and you can, add up to almost 1/4 inch and not really hurt things if you have to. But you can run a string line along your walls and see what's high and low, and if it's way sticking out, you can cut a little bit off with a saber saw or a jigsaw, whatever it takes to try to level it up. And if it's back too far, you just put a little bit of asphalt shingle in there. Okay, very simple. It goes pretty quick, and if you have it in your mind, all right, it don't bother you. And I'm paying him by the hour, so it's not like it's coming out of his pocket. It's just not the way he's used to doing it. He didn't like doing it any other way. Like I say, he was narrow-minded. But once he got in there and he started tackling it, then it come a matter of proving that he could do it and do a good job, and he did. It come out, it looked great. And when we get all done, he looked at it and he said, well, Ray, I hope they don't try to put a corner shelf in this house, because there's no place in here that it'll work. Those of you that know what I'm talking about, a corner shelf is square. It's 90, 90. And if you put it into a corner, if those walls are out of plumb, not square, it won't work. There's nothing you can do in there to make that thing work. But anyway, I got a good laugh out of it. He was happy with the results of it, and we both walked away happy. And the people that were going to move into it, they were just as happy, because it really did look nice when it was done. And the contractor that hired me was the one that took care of the painting on the outside, and the young couple reworked the windows that were in that house. So all in all, it was a successful thing, and it was much cheaper than tearing that whole thing down, putting a new foundation in, and then building a new house on it. They got a good start in their future. So people are that way. You run into people that their foundation is not too great. It's the way they were raised. So they may swear. Excuse me. They may not have the education you have. They may not finish high school. They may have learned off from somebody that had bad ideas. They could have come from a family of thieves, or who knows what all. So a lot of those bad tendencies can fall off on that person as they grow up and when they become adults. We don't know how far it's ingrained. They may not know how to interact with somebody that has a good heart or isn't trying to screw them over. And it's up to us to try to fix it if we can. They weren't born that way. It's just what happened along the path that they took. And I told you that story about somebody that had tried to screw me over, and I more or less ruined his life for him temporarily. And I went back and picked the pieces up and brought him back up. We ended up being best friends till the day that him and his wife passed away. It was worth the journey. And we have an opportunity like that. And it breaks my heart how many people would look at this person like they would look at that house, and they'd say, that house is terrible. There's no foundation. It needs painting. Its windows are falling out. I want to tear it down. And then you look at it and say, well, there's not enough money to replace it. What do we do? Well, I wouldn't move in there. We're that way with people, and I don't know why. But we have a woman out there, Miss Preston, and she has a little 4-year-old child that she's raised since birth. And people have zeroed in and say that they want to save this child from what they propose is a terrible life. And the Department of Child Services, or Department of Social Service, has been out there 27 times and not found a reason to remove that child from that property. This property was used more or less like a dump when they bought it, moved in there. And they've done a lot with it, but it's not a golf course. The house isn't completed. There's a shell sitting there, good-looking shell. Slab. They're having to live in a trailer, a travel trailer. There is a sewer system, and they have running water. Although the people that are knocking them say they don't have the sewer. They say that they're crapping in a bucket. Back when I was a young kid, we had chamber pots. You see, I grew up with no running water in the house. It had 3 light bulbs and no outlets in the house. We had a potbelly stove, and our ice box was a box you put ice in. Okay, it was a real ice box, not a refrigerator. Our stove was a 2-burner kerosene, and our oven was a tin box that sat on top of it. That old potbelly stove used to get cherry red, trying to keep that little house warm. There was 3 rooms in it, and 6 of us lived in that house. It was a house with a lot of people in small rooms, but it was full of love. 3 generations were in there, my brothers, my parents, and my grandmother. The house belonged to my grandmother. We lived just fine. We felt very lucky and gifted because we did have a roof over our head. We had more love than you can ask for. And we had a love of our Lord. You see, we liked going to church when we were young. There was a lot of programs there. We just loved it going there. We'd recite different things. We'd get up on the stage. We sang songs. We listened to the minister. We loved that minister as much as we loved anybody in life. He was a person to look up to. That's what we were taught when we were young. But it was a good start off. But we had nothing as far as these people that would look at this person and say, I don't want anything to do with him. If they would have seen me back then, they'd have said, I can't have anything to do with that person. They don't have a nickel in their pocket. Their house is drafty. Look at, there's all those people living in that little tiny house. How can they do that? How can children be raised in that place? Well, my mother, she loved it. She was born and raised there. One of my brothers was born in the living room there. That house had a lot of memories. My grandfather, he died there. 6 weeks after I was born, my grandfather died in that house. We were so lucky to have an upbringing where we were taught that money was not the God. Our Lord was, not money. The way we thought and did things, that was more important than anything else. And I tried to get that point across yesterday. That Miss Preston and that little child and Mr. Cook, regardless of what we think or what we've been told, you see, my only outlook on them is what I was told about them. I was told how bad of people these are. And I'm told to believe it. And if I don't, I can't make a comment on certain channel out there. And I'm thinking, where did that person grow up? Well, he professes to be a former preacher. Ooh, that surprised me. And the people who follow, I'm a terrible person because I want to help these people out. You see, if they don't have a foundation, I'm looking at, well, maybe we can help them with that foundation. Maybe we can make somebody that's a little better out of them. Maybe if we are their example, if there's enough of we's out there, maybe they'll try to change whatever habits there don't fit somebody else's. Not everybody follows what everybody else does. That town has got 100 people and no two of them are the same. So what are we going to do? Are we going to go down the line and we are going to judge each one? And when we hit the bottom, are we going to knock these people out of there one by one? Because as you take the bottom one out and you go to the next one that's on the bottom, pretty soon you're the only one left. Where there was 100, there is none. That just don't work very well. It was not God's plan. I look out there and I get some of these people calling back, and they write things on my channel that I don't particularly care for, and then they get mad at me because there might be some that are so bad I've had to remove them from my channel. The other one won't put it on his channel until he's scrutinized them before. So he don't have to worry about removing them. It's worrying about getting placed in the first place. The ones that have offered an opinion, and it's a clean opinion. It's not full of negative names. It's not repetitive over and over and over. Most of the time I'll leave it there so that people can see it. If it looks too foolish, I have to remove it, because why would I want somebody looking that bad having somebody chase them down? That's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to send you after somebody to chase them down. I don't want that. All I want to do is help somebody that needs help. Let's build them a foundation. Let's show them the expectations out there of what people would like to have without putting so much pressure on them that they're afraid to move around. That when we look at them, their eyes smile. That they have a smile on their face. That they put their hand out to shake hands with you. They don't pull it back and take a step back every time you step up. That's not what we're about as people out here. That was not the plan for us. It never hurts to try to shake hands with somebody. I learned that along the way. So a good friend of mine made me a believer in shaking hands. And I'll tell you that story someday, but not today. I've tried to show you what you can do in this situation. And every time I've tried to say something out there about helping, they say, well, are you doing that? What I'm doing with that person or to them or for them is none of your business. I'm giving you the story of what's going on there and asking them, if your heart will allow you to help, then do it. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm just saying, if your heart will allow it, then go ahead. It has to be your decision. I'm not forcing anything on you at all. I prayed to the Lord to help them out, because prayer is one of the best tools anybody can use as far as I'm concerned. That may not be your ballywhack. If it isn't, that's okay. You don't have to pray with me. It won't stop me from praying for somebody else. And I don't mind praying for you, because I want only the best for everyone out there. The Lord will open your heart. if you allow it to happen. He will lift your sins from your shoulders if you ask him. This person out there that needs help instead of being tore down, that's all they need is they need a little help. I've got people out there that say, you don't know the story, you don't know what they're like. Well, and that's very true, I don't. But if they're as bad as what people are saying, why aren't they trying to build this person up and help them out? Why would they tear down a perfectly good building and not have anything at all when all it takes is a little maintenance on it to bring it back into shape so it can be used? People are like that. How about a little help in remolding a person, trying to help them out? What is wrong with that? I've tried it. It works very well. I'm not saying everybody will be made into a new creature. Some can't. They can't. What can you do? We can try. That's what we can do. But if you don't want to, and that's in your nature, well, that's just you. But others can, so you don't need to go out there and knock the people that are trying to help these people. You don't need to go out there and name calling and all that. That isn't necessary. Don't tear down something that somebody else is trying to build. Don't make it so that they can't be built. All right, well, anyway, the correlation between remodeling a house and a person, it's a matter of attitude and using your skills. If you don't have the skills, obviously you can't help. If you don't have the attitude to help, you're the one that needs help first. And I understand that. And the Lord will help you on that end if you need it. You have to ask. Somebody like J.H. can't make you where you make you. He gives you plenty of entertainment. And if that's your bailiwick, well, so be it. If you're satisfied with what you get from all that advice from somebody that wants to tear a building down, well, there's nothing I can do for you. It's not going to stop me from trying to make this person over here, Miss Lynette or John, from being a better person, if at all possible. And maybe they don't need rebuilt. Do you ever think of that? Maybe there's love there you can't see. I know when I was raised up, there's probably some people who shook their head when they went by my house and they seen us bailing out of that house in the mornings. They probably wondered how we all fit there. When I went off to service, there was one less person. And when I got home after 3 years in the military, I'd been replaced. My mother had another little baby while I was gone. I actually had a son that was a year older than my youngest brother, and I have a son that's the same age as my brother. Now, one of my sons, the one that was the same age as my brother, has passed away. But you can imagine how different it was when I come home, because there was just the same number of people in that house as when I left. It's just that one of them was a baby. But he was a welcome gift, if you will. That my parents, he gave them a lot of joy when the rest of us had grown up and gone and started our own families. We still had this little brother back there keeping my parents running. Kept them young for an extra 20 years or so. So good things come from all kinds of things. With that, I'm gonna let you go and listen. I hope you don't get too upset with what I've got to say. Remodeling a person can work, just as it helped on that old farmhouse that this guy worked on for me. This guy that worked for me worked on and made it into quite a house that he understood the goals that he didn't understand when we started, but he certainly did when we got done and walked out, and he still had a sense of humor when he walked out the door. And he made somebody so happy. And we can do that with people. And it's a never-ending job. It just goes on and on and on. And it can make your heart feel so good and gracious. Your gift of you is worth more than any money in this world. So give a little bit of yourself. And for those people that ask what I give, like I said, it's none of your business. And I give with my heart. What do you give with? You let me know. Nah, don't tell me. It's none of my business either. Thank you for listening.